What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast. I'm your host, Therese.
And I'm Shelby.
And welcome to another episode of the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast. It's been a second since Shelby and I have just been talking solo episode. Today we have a super exciting business update for both of us that we'll get into. Well,
but
for me,
mostly Therese. Okay. It's new for Therese.
Yeah, I guess it's new as in people don't know it, but Shelby and I have been working on it for over a year.
Long time.
Both of us. So we'll get into that in just a second. But before we get into it, Shelby, how's your weekend?
It was great.
Yeah. Cool. What did you do?
Okay, so I mostly worked. This weekend is like our biggest weekend every year. UW graduation. That's it. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, Mother's Day, but you don't even do Mother's Day.
We don't do Mother's Day because
Eventually.
Graduation is too big.
Yeah.
So that is just massive for us. And I always get really nervous around this time of year, but we handled it really well. And I have no complaints.
Yeah,
so.
I saw you multiple times this weekend and you weren't completely dead melted on the floor.
Yeah.
And I've seen you for the past couple of years. So, but the impressive thing is I know you did record sales for this week, but your stress level was more relaxed.
I was fine. I got to do things with friends.
Yeah, you're just good at
hang out.
You've gotten better at planning and you've gotten more help, right? Is that, do you feel like that's a secret sauce? Yeah, she's crushing it. She's crushing it.
What'd you do this weekend?
Okay, well, I did a lot, but I don't want to tell you about my weekend yet because it's going to give up all of my surprises. Yeah. So I'll just tell you a story from yesterday. Okay, so I was listening to a podcast. Shelby sometimes sends me this particular podcast, and it was with Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
That was so good.
Yes, I loved it mostly because, of course, I love the Jonas Brothers and Nick Jonas. And I wanted to tell you a story that I don't think I've ever told you, okay, about Priyanka and Nick Jonas. Dun dun. Nobody knows.
I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
Let's see.
Well, so I won't go into all the details, but when I tweeted about my sister's engagement a couple years ago and it went viral and it was all over the news and I got a trip to LA, like all that fun stuff, that was just like a piece of it, okay? When we got back from LA, and this is like a way longer story, which I'm not going to make it about that right now. But when we got back, we're like, okay, like this didn't work out. We didn't get on the show. Like we almost got on the show. Like, darn it. You know, the hype is kind of running down. My brother-in-law and sister get a message from Nick Jonas and Priyanka's, what's it called? Manager.
Oh my gosh.
So they were starting a new show. And it was about Nick and Priyanka basically followed couples around their wedding week and kind of gave them advice. So Priyanka would have spent all this time with Rachel. Nick would have spent all this time with Andrew. And they would just like go through them on what it is to plan a wedding and giving them advice since they were newly married at the time. And this was a show, I don't know, either it came out or I know Nick Jonas advertised it like a year later, but I don't know if it actually went through because of the panini. But so they reached out and they're like, we would like to follow you guys. Like it has to be one of these weekends. Rachel and Andrew are like, we already have the wedding planned. Like we're not going to switch the wedding. And one of the things that they would have done, they would have just paid for the rehearsal dinner, which is like not that big of a thing. But then it would have brought like a ton of media attention and cameras. And Rachel and Andrew were like, ugh, we don't really want that. So they were like, they weren't down. I mean, they'd already planned their wedding date.
Yeah.
But in my mind, what I pictured happening, and I don't know exactly how it happened, but I pictured the Jonas Brothers all like hanging out like, and they're like, yo, did you guys see that tweet online? Like, Therese, like what? Like, we got to have her, have her.
They probably all saw it and talked about it.
I think they did because a couple famous people like saw it and retweeted it and like responded. Like Lily, whatever from, what's it called?
Aldridge?
What is it?
Aldridge?
No, Lily Reinhart.
Oh,
she like commented. She's like, this is hilarious, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, have this feeling maybe it got around the ex-Disney crowd.
Yeah.
But I imagine that they told their producer, like, we need to get these people on. And then they reached out. But for all I know, it could have been just the producer being like, oh, this is good fit. Do you guys agree? Because they must have had like some type of creative, input on it. But I was really excited because I'd never even heard her voice. I didn't know anything about her.
It's very pretty. It's soothing, isn't it?
It is. It's so soothing. It's like almost feels a little like British twang in there too.
A little bit, yeah.
But it never went through because wedding got canceled.
I probably would have changed my wedding date for that.
Oh gosh. Yeah, if there was like more money involved,
yeah.
But like for a rehearsal dinner, that's like $1,000 and we had already been so stressed. Like it was a really stressful couple of months. So, and regardless, it would have been canceled.
Well, now that we know someone who just got engaged and we were talking about like prices for like venues, it's just insane. My mom and I were talking about it last night. Like back in their day, it wasn't that expensive. Like,
well, nothing.
I know.
But
like a venue for like $10,000 for one night. It's like,
I know.
That's half, oh my,
I
half
know.
a car. Like,
I know. That's why I really want to get married in someone's yard. So, well, I will get married on the beach, but my reception, I'd love to have it someone's house and yard. I would like to invite a good amount of people and have a dance floor. And the dance floor would need to be in a covered area just in case.
And a tent is like 10 grand.
Perfect.
Well, I want to hear about the rest of your weekend. So are we going to just
get into it?
The bomb?
I know. I'm like getting nervous. Just
to everyone on this podcast, we have had to edit this out multiple weeks in a row because we talk about it. And then Teresa's like, cut it. I'm not ready.
I know.
But this episode, we are ready to drop the bomb.
We're ready to
go ahead.
Oh, this is so nerve-wracking. I signed a lease for the Tricky Food storefront, the first ever Tricky Food storefront. Woo! Finally, there's such a long story with this. I mean, Shelby knows, and I think this episode is going to be really funny because this isn't something I've ever been able to post about, and only, a couple handfuls of people know what this past year has been. On Thursday, I finally got the final drafts of my construction contract, my lease, and I could sign them. I planned in my head I was going to do this big signing party where I'd have confetti and, champagne or sparkling grape juice or whatever. And they just send it on DocuSign.
Yeah.
So you don't need to, I imagine it would be like, how like an NBA player like signs. Yeah. I want it to be like me like
pictures.
Yeah, pictures and like shaking the hand of the president of the company, which if he's listening or they're listening, I still would love to make that happen. Mm-hmm. But anyways, so they send me the DocuSign. And so I knew I'd be signing on Thursday. And so Kenan has off on Thursday. So he's like, we have to celebrate. I'm like, let's go to the Kalahari. And for those who don't know, the Kalahari is in the Wisconsin Dells. And the Dells is it's unlike any place.
Yeah.
Think about Disney World, but I have no shade with the Dells.
I don't either. Shade. But when you compare it to Disney, I do.
It's more like a Branson, Missouri. It's a
fun place.
It's a place with a lot of water parks. Water parks and like a lot of the Ripley's.
Ponderosa.
Yeah, the Ripley's,
the
believe it or
one
not.
In the state. Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's a super cool place, but there's this water park called the Kalahari. And so we decided to go up to the Kalahari and go to the water park and then go out to dinner that night.
If you guys didn't know this, Therese is like a water park junkie for no reason. Literal water shoes and all.
Oh, that's an absolute lie. Shelby's imagining that I had water shoes. She's like making that up. But I don't have water shoes. I wish. I talk about going to the Kalahari a lot, and I haven't been there in 6 years. So we decided to flippantly go to the Kalahari. Mm-hmm. And so I go into the hot tub area, and I pull up my phone, and I'm about to DocuSign. I've got one of those jumbo drinks with like
half a shot of alcohol.
Yeah, there's like nothing actually in it. It's literally just like
for $14.
No, it was $40 for a bunch of pureed fruit and ice.
I would pass away.
It was literally a bunch of fruit and pureed ice. I kid you not. It was 40 ounces.
Did you get to keep the cup?
It is.
Okay, that makes sense.
I should have.
You
brought it here today. Oh, well, it's not sponsored though, so I'm not.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Kalahari.
Here's your opportunity, baby. Anyways, so then we went up there and Kenan recorded me. I'll post the video eventually, and he's just shouting. He's like, woo! And I'm like, Kenan, shut up. People are like, why is this guy screaming in the hot tub right now? But anyways, so I finally signed the lease, and why this is such a big deal is because I got the first iteration of the lease 5 months ago, and the amount of reworks and having a lawyer look at it and renegotiating terms. And then because of delays with the city, we'll call it red tape, but it's just everyone has to do it to get permits. I'm going to talk in Greek for people that haven't built a storefront, but you have to be zoned for I had to be zoned for a restaurant, and the place that I'm going to be working out of wasn't. So to go through that is a month. To get my wine and beer license, that's 2 months. And so with all that time passing, they had increased my prices so much. So then it's how did this go up $50,000 over 2 weeks? That's the reality. That's what happened. So I spent all last week having conversations and changing things about how the storefront would be and changing the duration of my lease. Before I get too deep into the weeds of that, Shelby, can we talk about when this journey started for both of us? Let's go back to April of 2021. 2022, I mean.
Was it then?
I was in Peru and you're like, I think I found a spot for you. You were busting at the seams. Like you needed a storefront.
Yeah, I knew I needed one. I knew it couldn't happen ASAP. So I was like, I need to find one so that I can make it into a storefront as soon as possible. But I knew I needed one from 2 months in at the space I was at. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking. You had mentioned interest in like wanting to look too. And I was like, that's when we talked about maybe being next to each other.
That was the dream.
Then we started looking and trying to find a space or a couple spaces that we could have our storefronts next to each other or very close.
I want to say that Shelby took the lead. Like you took 90% out of the 100% effort needed to do this, you took 90% of the lead. She reached out to our broker. You found and toured all the spaces without me. You took pictures, you took videos, you sent them to me. I was dragging my feet because in my mind, I knew I needed one eventually, but I wasn't ready yet. And I had that mindset where it's like, well, when you're ready, you're already behind. So I was like, okay, I'm going to look into this. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have ever even entertained the idea. I think if it wasn't for you, I probably would have thought about it now.
Yeah.
Which is silly because for anyone looking to get a storefront.
Now you're struggling.
Yes. Well,
and you need it.
If you're looking to get a storefront, you should start looking
ASAP.
Yes. Like I had gotten advice from my mentors, like you should build
look.
Well, he had said you should build your team first before you try to look for your storefront. I said, well, can't I do both? And I'm so glad I did because like I can't build a team in a city and then move my storefront 30 minutes outside of that city because nothing's the same. So I was in Peru in April of 2022 and Shelby is like, I found these places you have to look when I get back. And so let's talk about that first location we almost got together.
It was very old. There was 3. That's the first one, right? So there were 3 in a row and we had another friend that we wanted to go in the middle.
Yeah.
So we have very different like size needs. So that was a problem that we had. Like I need a bigger space and you wanted like a smaller space.
I did.
So like that was hard because the space you wanted like doesn't exist often.
No, it doesn't.
That size like is hard to come by. So it either had to be one big space that we cut and then kind of figured that out, which was hard. Or this first one, we found something that kind of worked. However, we got into the bringing construction guys out, all that.
Before even that, we struggled because I was the 5th person in line for this space.
Oh, yeah.
So within 24 hours.
I forgot about that.
I don't forget about that. We had, within 24 hours of finding that out, our broker was like, you can try, but you were 5th in line. Shelby was first in line for her space. I was 5th in line for mine. So within a night.
And you know what's funny? That one's empty still.
That's funny looking back. It just seemed so hot. Like it seemed like everyone wanted it because it was a small space. Rent was really cheap.
Yeah.
And so within 24 hours, I turned around a 7-page letter talking almost like a business plan, but also like a please give me a chance plan. And also like I'm a woman-owned business in my 3rd year. Like please, and also why our 3 businesses, why I said we all needed to be by each other. Then we schmoozed her with cookies. We schmoozed her with other products. And then we schmoozed her. Yep. And with a charcuterie board. And she called me and she's like, the space is yours. So that was March of 2022 or May. And I remember thinking, holy crap, I'm going to have a storefront. Oh my gosh, this is like the most insane thing. And I started having this whole mental thing of like, now I'm going to be in Madison for the next few years. Like I didn't know, up until this point, now that I have a storefront, I was like, I don't know how long this will be my home. But like now I'm locked and loaded, And so especially a year ago at this point, when Kenan didn't live here either, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be insane. And so we started, back to your point we started getting construction people.
And they came into my space and they said, well, there was a lot of things that needed to happen to mine. Like the plumbing was like 50,000+, which at the time I was like, oh yeah. Like I knew it was a lot of money, but I was like, oh, that's probably what has to happen to every space. Like I didn't really know. And the electrical is what did it. It was like over 150,000 to update the electrical. It had to be done like throughout the whole building to work for my ovens. And like a bakery needs a lot of power. So the building was just outdated and didn't have that. So it was, that's the price of that. And I was like, well, I can't pay that. So ask the landlord. She's like, I can't pay that.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we're out of luck then.
Yeah. Well, and
that was heartbreaking.
That was so heartbreaking because like in my mind,
that was tough.
Yeah, we would have been right next to each other and
we thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
Like I was sold.
Yeah.
And I also am very emotional. Like if I like attach to something, I'm like, that's mine. I want it.
Yeah.
Like I've envisioned everything. And so like getting that, we felt like it was far.
Well,
looking back,
we paid down a deposit for the place.
We got it back.
Yeah, well, we got it back.
But yeah.
We still were committed. I was like,
yeah,
I'm going to use
it felt like it was like ours.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And we'd look through it. We had the codes to the door. We were like, this is our space. This is how it's going to function. Like I felt we were far along. And so when that didn't work out, I went through, it felt like a loss for both of us. But for me, I was like, well, if I can't be at this place with Shelby, it's like, do I really want my own space? Like, do I actually think I'll be successful in a space? And at this time of a year ago, keeping in mind, like I started this business during COVID. The panini. So my mindset was to go orders, small kitchen space, pickups. That was my concept. I look back, I am so beyond grateful that didn't work out because, well, from my perspective, that business model would not have served me the way my new business model is going to be in the space. And for you, do you feel like you got a better space? Like better location too, right?
100%.
More walking traffic, more just people that will pass by.
Bigger, less expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still expensive, but less expensive compared to everything we had to do at the other space. Yeah. So then we kept looking. Therese was like
I wasn't super
into it.
Yeah.
And she was kind of like doubting like if she wanted it.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, I'll find a different one where we can be next to each other. So I kept looking. There was another space like across the street pretty much. And we thought that one was it. We were like, oh, there's a basement.
There was a basement and it was an old, what was it?
Auto parts.
Napa Auto Parts.
Yeah.
And it had this really cute little elevator for materials. Like elevator for materials. So I was like, Shelby, you can store all your flour in the basement and just roll it up this little elevator. Cool. We're like, we can have like a whole open office concept for all of our employees. Cause like for those who don't know, people that see online know that me and Shelby are great friends, but what you don't see behind the scenes is like a lot of our customers are the same. A lot of customers are adding on Miggy's Bakes to their orders. We dip over all the time where people always reach out and they're like, hey, I'm picking up your stuff and Miggy's. Can Miggy's just drop it off at your place?
Yeah.
And so we're coordinating all the time. We also share employees, like crossover. Sometimes like we kind of have our own, but we share them in ways. So to me, it was like, well, this will be great. We'll have the same space. It will make sense. We toyed with so many ideas. We toyed with sharing kitchen space, sharing one location, but like Shelby and I, at the end of the day, like we both had different visions. And so we needed to be separate. Although I'm still putting it out there. Miggy's Bakes and Tricky's Foods, Sweets and Treats someday.
We'll toy with that later.
I believe Shelby and I have a lot of the same growth goals, but we're very different people and we're both going to have our own spaces. But hopefully we end up in the same cities as we continue. And that includes ending up in Florida as well.
So then that one didn't work. We thought it was going to work. And then they were like, oh, well, the owners of the building actually want to expand their business into the space.
And honestly, that's crap
because now it's different businesses.
It's different businesses. But like one of the hard things, we're 25, 26. Landlords wouldn't really give us the time of day unless we prove that we could get funding. But in order to prove that you can get funding, you already have to have a copy of the lease. Very confusing. We also, as you could imagine, don't have like a nest fund of money that we can just say, hey, we're ready to build this storefront. So like the landlord kind of has to work with us. They have to believe in us. And then the bank also has to believe in us. I think, honestly, I don't even blame them because from a landlord perspective, why would you want to rent to a 25-year-old food business if you could get like a chiropractor or someone else more proven? So that happened. And then Shelby and I, Shelby started looking on her own and I was like, oh, I felt crushed. I did. But like Shelby had to do what was best for her business because she was literally busting at the seams and I was still like on my way towards that direction. So Shelby found her own place and I stopped looking because I was like, I'm just going to focus on, I guess, my sales right now. So now fast forward, when did you find your place?
Like November.
Oh yeah. Signed her lease December 31st.
Yeah, signed my lease December 31st.
You want to say why?
I'm still recovering from it. So basically in the state of Wisconsin, there was like a bounce back. It was called the bounce back grant. And if you there's a, miscommunication here. Had your lease signed is what I had read and understood. But apparently it needed to be like, the words were executed. If you look up executed lease, it's signed.
That's literally
that's
what
the
it
definition.
Means.
And so we had a little back and forth, and I ultimately was denied.
She on New Year's Eve, she's like signing
signing it so that I would be able to get this grant. So I thought, but my occupancy date didn't actually start until February 1st. So that's why the state or the government, whoever, denied me, and it was $10,000. And so that's why I was like really rushing, and like it was very stressful at the time. But my landlord was great and like was helping me to do this.
Yeah.
And what just kills me is like, if I would have known that, we would have changed my occupancy date to December 31st.
Yeah.
There wasn't a problem with that.
Yeah.
But we just did it that way so that the other people could like get their stuff out. They weren't even in there. Like they didn't care.
Yeah, that's
so
super bogus.
It was tough. And that still haunts me.
Yeah.
But I tried to fight it, and I got slam dunked every time. Yeah. I called many people, wrote a letter. Nothing happened.
I feel like that. I feel like they
put
ran
that
out
on
of
my
money.
gravestone.
Yeah.
Because I will fight that until I'm dead and gone.
Yeah.
And I also knew, like, my thing was like, I was not going to not be in Middleton. I knew I was going to be in Middleton, and there was no question about it. So it's tough when you limit yourself to one city that's like very popular, and it's tough to find like exactly what you want in your price range, in your city. And so it took a little bit longer than I had hoped, but
yeah. I mean, looking back, I'm just so grateful that you pushed me to start looking, literally. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I stopped looking. Shelby was kind of like still going ahead with her stuff. I get to watch her going through it. The nice thing, you guys, like, I'm telling you, it's so great to see like someone else going through something at the same time and a little bit ahead. Anyways, I stopped looking for a while because I was just focusing on doing what I already knew. And then
people tried to talk us out of it. Remember that night at that house?
People, we have been told.
People that are very successul.
Yeah, successful. But like, there's a lot of people that don't believe in food businesses because food businesses are the most likely to fail. Mm-hmm. They typically have slim profit margins. I wouldn't say we're doing traditional food businesses because we're not running restaurants. We're running like specialty food, occasional food, events food type of thing. But people have said to us together, like, brick and mortar is where people go to die. Where businesses die.
I'm like, oh,
or
great.
Like, quit your job and make some real money, or like, you'll never make money in this industry. Yeah. And so
anything you can think of, we've probably heard something.
But I think when like people keep hitting it, then you think like, okay, did they just poke a hole in my idea? Like how strongly do I really believe it? Because if everyone around you was like, yeah, that's going to work. Then how like sharply do you think through, like for me, my business plan and like how my space is going to function? Like I just felt so overwhelmed with like, what am I going to do with this space? And then like you put under pressure. I hate this quote, but I also love it. It's like, something under pressure makes diamonds. Mm-hmm. Coal under pressure. Is that even true?
I think so. I think that's how diamonds are made.
Anyway, so I stopped looking, and so Shelby's like still going forward with her space. I'm like, oh my gosh, my dream. Someone comes to pick up a board at my house, and I don't get to interact with the people picking up boards anymore because I do something Shelby told me to do where it's just set it outside, because I used to love being able to talk to everyone, but now I have so many things on my plate. I don't have the time. But at the beginning, I was like, how'd you find me? What are you celebrating? Oh my gosh. But this time, these people came to pick up, and I got talking with them. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a storefront. I had no idea what they knew. I didn't think they knew anything, but I just said, like, that's my goal of the business. A day later, the president of this company reaches out to me. He's like, hey, I heard you were talking to this person. We think we might have a space for you. I'm like, okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. This space, you guys, is right across the street from where I live. So like there's been a ton of construction on my street because they're building a 66-unit apartment building. And I'm like, oh, this construction traffic. Oh my gosh. And then he's like, hey, we might have a space for you. I'm like, oh, this traffic. I doesn't, bless you guys, you know? Yeah. And so I go over there and I'm like, honestly, you guys are building a luxury apartment building. I don't think I can afford this. This is 1,400 square feet. It's hard to imagine what that looks like, but the space that Shelby and I were looking at originally, I was 700 square feet. Yours is how much? 1,200?
Mine's 19.
Oh, 1,900, duh. So the space that came to me was 1,400 square feet. I'm like, this is too big. This is too nice. It's a brand new building. Like, there's no way I can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a conversation with him without my broker, and he's like, how much do you want to pay? And I'm like,
500.
no, I said a very small number.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dirt cheap. You pay per square footage per year.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and then there's normally extra fees where it's like, it's called common area maintenance. Shelby knows this, but for those who don't, and you're paying for them to plow, to do the lawn mowing, to like fix hallway lights, you know, stuff that you share. So like a typical lease in Madison is what, like 30 to 35 a square foot?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am paying, should I drop it or no?
I wouldn't.
Okay. I'm paying a good price. I was able to negotiate a really good price for my lease. It's something called a stair step where it goes up every year, but that's like leases do go up a little bit every year. That's pretty common. So I'm doing a stair step where like it starts at a lower price, and then as I'm in the business more, it goes up a little bit more. But they were willing to negotiate with that with me and also the terms of the lease. So I asked for fewer years. Like a lot of leases are like 7, 10 years.
7,
5, 7, 10 is common. I originally was doing 3, but now I'm 5 years. And yeah, so I mean, they asked me to be in the space. So they had been my customers for the past 3 years. They believed in my business already. They've tried my product, and they wanted a business that was like already kind of like running.
Mm-hmm.
And so with 1,400 square feet, I can do a lot more than just make charcuterie boards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
Oh, thanks for asking. So the space, it was so difficult. I don't know if you felt this way too, because I know you already had like some walls, but they knocked a lot of them down.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was just a big blank open space. So I'm just drawing lines. I'm like, that looks good for an office. That looks good for a kitchen. And then the architect's like going down to the inches.
Yeah.
So I decided a small kitchen space. I mean, small, it's a pretty good sized kitchen space for production because we have to be in a commercial kitchen. Then I was like, oh, this place has a patio. Okay, well, and I don't need all this extra space like for the kitchen. So I'm going to make it a lounging area, a place to like hang out. Of course, I'm going to have wine because there's a lounging area, and cheese and meat obviously goes well with wine. Then I was like, okay, my office will be here. And then I cut the office and made it a little smaller. So then I have a more lounging area. So the function of the space will be these 3 things. I'll sell wine and maybe beer. I'm getting licensed for both. We'll see what happens. Production space, event venue space. So I can hold up to 49 people legally because of the bathroom situation. Around 30 people can be seated, not including the patio. That's just like no matter the weather, 30 people can be seated. Mm-hmm. And then I'll have a place to teach classes. And then prep for grazing. Tables will have a really long, beautiful, what is it called? Marble countertop. So like when people have events at my space, at the Turkey Foods space, we'll be able to have a grazing table, we'll have wine, and then we'll have like all this cool seating and outdoor space. Mm-hmm. So I'm just so happy I found it because the space before would have just been pickups.
Yeah.
And what everyone has seen in the charcuterie world is like people don't want grab and go as much as they want experience. They want catering. They want larger orders and a place to hang out too. That is going to be the function of the space, and it will be open in summer of 2023. Yeah, Shelby, how's your storefront build out going?
It's going
how's it
swimmingly.
really going?
It's almost done. So it's been a journey. I'll say that. It's definitely like probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Like what parts are the hardest besides everything?
I mean, like it's truly like you just don't know what you're doing until you do it. Like they don't teach you this stuff. You're not taught this anywhere. You just have to like go do it yourself and put yourself in it and then ask for help, ask for advice, and that's all you can do is just like weather the storm, honestly. And that's what I feel like I've been doing is just trying to like find the best way to do something because I don't know how to do it. So I'm like, okay, I think this is right. And then kind of backing up. Does that right? Okay, going forward some more.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of like trial and error and like asking people that have done it.
Well, one thing I really liked about watching you do your thing is I remember they put up a wall and you're like, ugh, I don't like that wall. Like, take it back down. Mm-hmm. It was in your plans and in your idea. But the thing I like about you is you're so like willing to, this is a buzzword, but pivot. Mm-hmm. You're so willing to pivot. You really are though. Like you look at something, you're like, oh, that doesn't look right. Like that's not what I needed it to be. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that when they start digging the ground in my space,
when you're spending that much money, you're going to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
If you don't like it.
That's kind of like this whole storefront thing really lights a fire under your butt where you rise to the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that way even with needing to negotiate. I have never had conversations of negotiation. Like when I'm negotiating, it's like, hey, do you want to drive? Do you want me to drive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll drive. No worries. But like when you're negotiating 10s, 20s, 30, 40, like a lot of money, it's like,
you don't have a choice.
yeah, like you're just like, I'll have to figure this out because it's like, it feels like life or death when at this age. But
yeah,
something that confuses me is that people in this field, this like construction field or, landlord field, they're like, oh yeah, you're like, your storefront, it's like a small project. I'm like, oh, it feels like the biggest thing in the world when they're building like multi-million-dollar buildings,
Yeah.
But it's like everything to you.
Yeah. One thing that Garth said offline, I was like, I've taken on so much at once. Like, I feel like I probably wouldn't take on this much again. And he's like, well, no, you will. Because like when you do that, you like build your muscle to take on more. And it feels like a lot now. But then like in a year from now, you're going to be doing even more than that. And it's like, I can't even fathom that. But when I'm so overwhelmed right now, it's a good overwhelm. I don't feel like I'm going to like burn,
combust.
Overwhelm. Yeah. Like I feel good. Like I'm like a good overwhelm, but it's like I'm getting more done because I literally have to. Like I have deadlines I have to meet, like last week and this week. There's a lot of deadlines I have to meet that I feel like I'm literally like, how am I going to do this? Like with all my orders and my other business and everything I have going on, it's like, how am I going to? But like, you don't have an option. So you're going to do it. And that's something that I've realized like I can do a lot more than I think I can, than like I would normally give myself credit for. I'm doing a lot more. And it's like, it's not killing me.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the episode we recorded with Liv? And either her or I mentioned that it never gets easier, but you just go faster, further.
Yeah.
And it's like.
Definitely. That's the same. Yeah. The same kind of thing here is that's how I feel right now.
I can totally agree. I mean, I even think about this past weekend for me work-wise where it's like, I think I was looking to this weekend because we had a couple events and I did them mostly on my own. And I thought I'd be like stressed and tired and like, burnt out.
A year ago, we would have been like,
oh yeah,
dead.
Yes, a year ago actually would have. But when I reflect on this weekend, I consider it very relaxing and like kind of rejuvenating.
Like for this weekend, I literally plan for the next week.
You said you were going to be sick.
I thought today I would be sick.
Yeah.
Because
you did.
The last 3 years in a row doing graduation week, the whole week and the weekend, I'm sick the next week. Like you literally horribly sick. Like my body just is done with me.
Yeah.
I expected that. But I had a lot more help. We did a lot more planning and I'm fine.
Yeah.
I feel good.
Well, I even think about the first events I ever did back in the day.
I know.
And like, I had never had migraines before in my life, ever. But those first few events, I remember I'd get so exhausted. I would get back to the kitchen. This is really sad. And I wouldn't even put any, like I would sometimes have excess ingredients back in the day because I didn't do like measurements like I do now. And I would just leave food out. And then the next morning I wake up and I'd be like looking through the stuff and I'd be like, oh, I left that cheese out overnight. I let that out overnight because I was so dead.
Yeah.
Oh man. But now it's like an event like that would be super casual. Like I could do 2 or 3 of those in a day or multiple in a weekend at least. So one of the struggles that I felt a lot with the storefront was the overwhelming burden of taking out a loan. Like I thought college debt was a lot. And this is about 10 times my college debt was.
Yeah.
And also just getting a loan as a 26-year-old who has almost nothing to their name. Like
retweet.
Retweet. Like nothing notable. Like I have everything that I need and I feel financially well for someone at my age.
But we don't technically have like assets that the bank wants.
We have nothing.
Yeah. Like so if for people that don't know this, like having a house or I guess a car.
My car.
Yeah, now you have like the car but I don't personally own a car. You didn't know that? My parents own the car that I drive.
I know you always drive a different car.
I don't own it.
What?
So I literally don't have anything to my name. And for people being like, oh, you don't have a car. I have nothing to say to you. The car I drive is like 15 years old.
Yeah, well, you're always driving a different car because like one of them is out.
Yeah. And that's the one that I typically would drive.
Oh my gosh,
I
am
literally
dead.
don't own anything.
Oh gosh.
So basically, like when I would go to the banks, it would be like, I have I don't even have stock. I have
A 401k.
I have
Roth
401k.
IRA.
I have things like that.
You have
I
to-
don't have a 401k. I have an IRA.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And I have a good amount of money saved from working.
Hmm.
And that's it. And they're like, well, what else do you have? I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing.
They make you put together, what is it called? Like your
Personal financial statement.
PFS. Personal financial statement. Yeah, you'll put all of your, if you have stocks. For me, when I started the loan process in July versus when I actually submitted it, it changed so much because I had bought a car. And that's that is one sheet of paper I had to sign saying if I'm not making my loan payment, that's the first thing they'll take.
Yeah.
Is my 2019 Honda CR-V
So
with
like
heated
doing
seats.
that was so freaky.
Yeah, it was freaky. And like, so I originally, I was working, people say you should go to multiple banks and like get information, like what's your interest rate, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had to get a small business association SBA loan. Did you have to get an SBA loan?
Yep.
That, there's not as much freedom because anytime I called banks, they're like, if you're doing SBA, it's the same for everyone. Just if you want a preferred lender, if possible. So I went through with one bank and then literally right at the final day, they call me. It's like the final hour. In my mind, I was told it was the final hour. And they're like, yeah, we need an additional signer. So like I signed for Tricky Foods, the business. I signed Therese Merkel. I personally guaranteed it, meaning if my business went under and I was bankrupt, they could take everything I own, which not super impressive, but still like I have a car. And then they wanted another signer. And I was like, I hadn't heard of that. They never mentioned that to me. So
and
then,
for me, that was like day one what they told me.
that's so crazy.
At
I must have gone in
multiple
one year,
banks
not
that
the
I
next.
went to. That's like one of the first things they told me.
Yeah, well, they had never told me that. And I was like, wait, I didn't know that was even a thing. And so then I scrambled and I got connected with one of our friends, Kelsey and Nate, their banker.
Yeah.
We're all working with the same people.
Yeah.
Which is really
Lots
funny.
of overlap.
A lot of overlap. And so then within 4 days, I got the approval because I got kind of like denied from that bank. But I called Shelby crying and I was like, what am I going to do? That was stress.
Now we're good.
Yeah, now we're good. It's just like, it's a lot to think about having.
Something that like has been, I need it. I still need it. Is having people that have already done this, going to them and asking them for help, showing me what to do. And just having like people like you, like last week, I was so overwhelmed and I was so stressed out that Therese was like, what can I do? What can I do? She made me meal prep. She made me hot ham rolls and I went over and she fed me and then I ate them for the next 2 days.
I can do that again anytime.
So like, you know, having people like that are willing to like do anything. And then like I've leaned on Laura a lot because one of our friends, Benna Blends, who has a business and has had it, her storefront for like a year, over a year and a half now. So like leaning on her, people like Garth,
Kelsey and
like
Nate.
Kelsey and Nate, the SBDC, like truly.
Small Business Development Community Center.
I would not know. I wouldn't know anything. Yeah. So like you just have to ask. You have to find. If you go into this like with no one to ask questions, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, that will be tough. I mean, even with like
you might
even with the bank like needing projections, like how the heck I had my accountant whip up projections that I don't think would have gotten me a loan because they were, you know, quick, fast, like not a lot of assumptions or thoughts put into it. But when I went through the Small Business Development Center, it took a month to get them back. But they were, like 20 pages?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Shelby telling me that, I mean, that's a free service that if you would pay someone to do that type of work, thousands. Oh, thousands.
High thousands.
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. And it's like that number that shows
and every state has that and it's free.
They do?
Every state. It's funded by the government.
That is insane. Well, so that's great. I mean, and also like UW-Madison, they have like a lot of free resources for people like that are starting businesses. So those are huge. Asking our friends. One of the things that I would do over again that has been probably one of the best parts is one, not only like asking our small business friends, but the team of people I feel like I'm working with, as in my banker is incredible. He's given me so much advice. Shout out, Mark. Thank you. And that was Kelsey and Nate recommended him, and also my landlord recommended him.
Yep.
My landlords are incredible. They've been like so on my side. Whether in Madison or you're in other places, there's landlords that don't give a crap. They have thousands, hundreds of locations throughout the country, and they are not even in this area, and they don't care your number. But like my landlords, I just can't believe how much I feel like they care and how they fought for me. And so that's been huge. And then our broker, who has been such a peach. I mean, we've really been on it for a year. Like brokers don't get paid until we sign a deal. So like for him to stick with us and stay positive for a year has been great. So yeah, we've worked with a lot of the same people, and there's a lot more to say about it, but this is kind of what we've been up to for the past year. I know how your storefront is going to function a little bit in the future. Like you're going to be a little bit more of a late night cookie place. You're getting an ice cream machine.
Soft serve.
Which is exciting. Will there be any other flavors besides vanilla?
No.
Get the swirl flavors.
Let me just tell you, I thought a soft serve machine would cost $1,000. It was like $6,000 for one flavor. Now, if you wanted vanilla and chocolate, bump that up. Multiple thousand. If you want that and a swirl, bump that puppy up. So I said, we will do vanilla for now.
Yeah.
And maybe down the road we'll upgrade. But we can put some chocolate sauce on that for you. If you wanted chocolate, we'll put some sauce on.
You'll just have someone mixing it in the back.
Yeah. We'll be open later. A lot of people are like, oh, you'll be open at like 7 for breakfast? No, I'm not a breakfast bakery. Like 11 to 9 will probably be our hours. Sundays will be open in the mornings for breakfast. I think the thing I'm most excited for that I'm just like really want in a space is like creating experiences in the space. So like a lot of bakeries I look up to they do things like Princess Day or like, I don't know, Avengers Day or Disney Day. And they'll have like characters come in, like a couple princesses come in, and the whole place is like kind of themed that you sell themed desserts.
Wow.
And like having Santa in. I will have Santa in once a week in December or more. I'll get a Santa in there as much as I can.
Ho, ho, ho.
He's going to listen to this in Texas. Like things like that. Like I want it to be like a hub that like, something fun is going on. And like, I can't do that in a kitchen where I don't have a storefront.
I can't wait to pick up a couple shifts there. You guys are going to catch me slinging cookies. I'm going to be like, 2,000 cookies, 2,000, like shouting, like throwing bags.
I think literally, I don't think I could ever actually work with you if you worked in my kitchen.
Why? Because I would be too much fun. It's because I would be too much fun. Anyways, something I'm really excited about for MySpace. Anytime I say MySpace, I just think of myspace.com. But something I'm excited for, the Tricky Food space. I'm so grateful for the shared commercial kitchen that I've been able to work out of the past couple of years, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been profitable, and they made that work. So I'm like so grateful. What I will say is during certain seasons, it can get tough, especially like food cart season and the summer. And it's just difficult to control the environment when there's so many other hands in the pot type of thing. So it will be incredible to have our own space where everything will be in its place all the time. No one will accidentally grab our things. I'm going to appreciate that a lot. So from the back end, that's what I'm going to love. I'm also going to love having a pickup space. And really like Tricky Foods has been an online Instagram experience where I try to make people feel the brand through our stories, our newsletter, our posts. But to be able to bring that positive energy and like fun and cool kind of Instagram-y vibes to real life is going to be awesome. And I just can't wait for people to want to use our venue space to bring people together, because that's why I started. That's why I love food, is I love bringing people together. I've already talked about that. I mean, I swindled you at my house with some ham rolls. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. But I love bringing people together. And now that they don't just have to grab their stuff and go, like to be able to see people hang out.
Are you going to do some wine tastings?
I have to figure that part out. Honestly, I've just been
I'll run that part.
Okay. Our new sommelier. Wouldn't that be funny? But also like hosting events, charcuterie classes. I'd love to feature Miggy's Bakes for a cake class. Like, yeah, woo! So it will be a good space for that. And I mean, I just can picture it so well. I've been working with the designer. Yeah. And like, I just can't wait to walk in and be like, holy crap, I own everything in here. I own that light bulb. I own that chair, everything. And it's like, I don't really have that right now. So that'll be nice. So yeah, everyone, if you're outside of Madison, you're going to have to come and visit. You're going to have to take a trip. I'll be downtown, near downtown, just by the time I'm like available for you to come by. Just type in Tricky Foods on your map and you'll find us off of a main road called John Nolan. And Shelby will be in Middleton, which is 15 minutes away. So you can just bop around. Cool. Well, there's a lot we could say about the storefront stuff, but we'll wrap it at that. So everyone, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah.
Shelby,
thank you.
Where can they find us?
You can find us at Screw It, Let's Do This on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, anywhere you listen.
YouTube is the best place because you can watch us. And if you like it, we would love if you would subscribe. And also, I think you can get ratings.
On Spotify, you can.
Yeah, that means a lot.
Yeah.
So we would love if you would do that. And tune in every Wednesday. We'll have a new episode for you guys. So
and also share our podcast.
Yeah.
With other people.
Please. We'd love that.
You can follow our very own storefront journeys at Miggy's Bakes on Instagram, on TikTok. I've been posting more like behind the scenes type stuff on TikTok.
I love it.
And where can they find you?
You can find and follow the Tricky Foods journey at Tricky Foods on Instagram. We have our monthly newsletter and you can subscribe to that on our website. Other than that, you guys, you're just going to have to see it in person. Mm-hmm. You'll have to see it in person to believe it.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.